threat to the game, and players like Mark Savard provide the playmaking. This team is led by probable Vezina Trophy winner Tim Thomas. This team looks a lot like our last team to reach the Cup, although not to win it, our Bruins of 1991. Their ferocious team was led by team captain Ray Bork. The current Bruins version of him is hard-hitting captain Zdeno Chara. This year's team has a goal-scoring, hard-hitting left winger named Milan Lucic, who got suspended for a game in the playoffs. He resembles a certain Hall of Famer, the legendary Cam Neely. Although they did not win the Cup, I have complete confidence that this year's squad will. The difference? Tim Thomas. This year's team is on fire, scoring at least 4 goals a game in the playoffs, and no one is going to get the puck by Tim Thomas. Back to you, Aaron.
Go. Go.
All right, thank you, Jonathan. And now I'm still here, Andrew Ramsey, but there are 2 new faces here on the Back Talk set, Danny Shellman and Alex Friedgood. Now, Jonathan just had a nice commentary about the Bruins, and now we're going to pick up where he left off. Yeah, as I said before, the Bruins have just completed a 4-game sweep of the Montreal Canadiens. Danny, we'll start with you. What are your thoughts about, maybe the weaknesses that Montreal has shown, but more specifically the strengths of the Boston Bruins going forward?
Well, sweep Montreal really brought out a statement that the Bruins are here and they're not going to mess around. They stayed poised, they were physical, and they didn't have a lot of penalties. And it was a rematch of last year's first round where the Canadiens were 1, the Bruins were 8, and now it's the other way around this year. So with the Bruins able to take the Canadiens to 7, losing, but still Game 7 last year, the Bruins sweeping the Canadiens this year shows that the Bruins were one of the better teams both years.
One thing is the Canadiens, 2 reasons why they lost that. Bruins, Ryder, and Tim Thomas. Both stellar. And Milan Lucic, both Ryder and Milan Lucic was the offense for the Bruins in that game. Then Tim Thomas was stellar throughout that series.
As he has been throughout the entire season, practically.
Yeah. Problem with the Canadiens, their whole team, just off and on. They couldn't, throughout the season, why they didn't do well, was because they couldn't keep up. They weren't consistent.
They also weren't very healthy the entire season either.
They had lots of injuries. And Carey Price, very inconsistent with goals. He was letting here and there. Each game he'd had a bad game, good game, bad game. And then throughout the series, the Bruins were amazing. Canadiens were playing terrible.
Again, you talked about the on and off and the inconsistency with the Montreal Canadiens, but also I think they've regressed quite a bit from where they have been in the past, when there were those great Canadian teams where you think, oh, Lord, we have to play Montreal, in a home and home. We're going to lose both. But now, when you think about the Canadiens, you almost just think Alex Kovalev.
Yeah.
This team's talent base and, their group of good players has really almost gone dry. I mean, Carey Price has a lot of talent. You got to give him that.
Yeah, definitely.
You just got to see if he can put it together and if he can stay consistent because, a consistent goalie is the key to winning in the NHL. I think a lot of people know that.
And the only other 2 players that are decent on the Canadiens are the Kostetins brothers. Dang, I missed
Stetson?
Stetson brothers. Kostetins brothers.
Also Koivu and Higgins.
Yep. I think that's pretty much the team. They need to probably prepare their players better, and they're actually now a younger team. They used to be an older team with more veterans, but now they're a younger team with more inexperience. And I think down the road, you could see them 5 years. Five years from now, they could be a good team.
Yeah, eventually they're probably going to go in the right direction. It's just going to take them a few years.
But right now, when you hear, you're playing the Canadiens, you're like, okay, what are we going to be playing against? Like the Islanders, like sucking, or are you going to be playing against like the Bruins or Sharks caliber team? You just don't know with the Canadiens.
Again, no offense meant to the New York Islanders, but you have been less than stellar this year.
Yes. Yep. As you said, goaltending wins games. The team to beat is Detroit in the playoffs with Chris Osgood in net. He has got his 14th career playoff shutout, which is, as you say, consistent in net. And series already over in the playoffs. Pittsburgh beat Philadelphia 4-2 in the series, and sweeps by Vancouver over St. Louis and Detroit over Columbus.
All right, and now we'll move from the Garden in Boston to the Radio City Music Hall in New York City, the site, again, of this year's NFL Draft. And there was no surprise, even before Draft Day, who the number 1 pick was going to be. Quarterback Matthew Stafford out of Georgia. The Lions signed him before Draft Day, just as the Dolphins did with offensive tackle Jake Long from Michigan last year. So Initial reactions from the draft. Danny, we'll start with you.
Well, great draft so far. One of the best I've seen in a while. With Matthew Stafford, Mark Sanchez, the quarterback, was caliber in the first round. Not so great now. The Patriots cleaning house in the second round, getting Patrick Chung, a safety from Oregon, Ron Brace, a defensive tackle from Boston College, Darius Butler, a cornerback from UConn, and Sebastian Vollmer. I forget what his position is, but I know he is from Houston. I think he's an offensive lineman.
Alex?
One thing is, I really don't like when they do that. There was no surprise.
For me, it kind of takes the fun out of the number one overall pick. Typically, because the draft takes so long in between selections, I like to just, sit there, watch the first few picks, and then catch the recap.
Yeah,
yes.
I usually do that too, but yesterday I actually watched the whole thing. 5 hours. That's long. It was really tough doing that.
Anyways, you were saying about the
I think it really ruins the quality of the first round pick, and it really a lot of people think, oh, okay, it's not like who's the first pick this year.
Now it's who's the second pick this year.
Yeah. It's more like who's the second best quarterback or second best player going to be, when is he going to be picked? Like, I actually had more interest with the Mark Sanchez thing of who he was going to get picked.
Yes.
And usually you'd think of first overall pick, you'd think get more publicity over that. But no.
Alex, you mentioned the quarterback thing. The New York Jets, in my opinion, got a steal. They traded up with Cleveland from number 17 overall in the first round to number 5 and got quarterback Mark Sanchez out of the University of Southern California. Now, there's been a lot of debate. Granted, Matthew Stafford went number 1 and Mark Sanchez went number 5, but there's a lot of controversy and debate over who's going to be the better quarterback. Maybe in some reasons just this year they're arguing, or overall. Danny, what are your thoughts on that?
Well, it's the second time in 3 years that a quarterback has been drafted number 1 overall, with Russell back in 2007 and now Stafford in this year. And, as I was watching the Jimmy Fallon show a couple nights ago, and he had Matthew Stafford as a guest. He was throwing up plates to see if Matthew Stafford could hit it in midair, and Matthew Stafford hit 3 out of 4. Now, Mark Sanchez is still a good quarterback, but I think Matthew Stafford will be the better this year.
I think 2 reasons why Mark Sanchez will do better. I feel he's more experienced, and I think he's more ready because
he's played more games. No, he's played less games.
He has played less games, but I think the coaching staff in USC has prepared him more, and he's had to be the backup guy and looking and filling in these shoes for these other great quarterbacks like Matt Leinart,
John David Booty.
And also the Lions suck, so it's going to be tough for him.
Well, the Lions, they were 0-16, but let's not go as far as
they had a tough year, but I think after this draft they'll do better, like the Dolphins. They went 1-15. Now this year, they made the playoffs. I think anything could go happen, but I just think the Lions, he's coming into a really difficult situation, like really tough situation.
I definitely agree with you there, because I think Mark Sanchez may have an easier time than Matthew Stafford because, A, he doesn't have the pressure of getting $47 million in guaranteed money.
Yes.
And also, he's got some guys he can throw to. Now, granted, Matthew Stafford has Calvin Johnson to throw to, but he doesn't have much else. So all you really have to do is as a defensive back for another team, try to take Calvin Johnson out of the equation, and you maybe minimize Matthew Stafford's effectiveness.
Yes.
But whereas in New York, Mark Sanchez has Lavernius Coles to throw to. He's got quite a few good targets, and so we'll see how that pans out.
Back to the Patriots. There are other drafts on the day. Brandon Tate from North Carolina, a wide receiver. Tyrone McKenzie, an outside linebacker from Southern Florida. And Rich Orenberger, an offensive lineman from Penn State.
All right, so that just about does it for us on the Back Talk set. I'm Andrew Ramsey for Alex Friedgood and Danny Shulman. But before we leave, let's throw it over to Jesse in the main studio for a quick update. Jesse?
Thanks, Andrew. Well, back to the Cleveland and Detroit game. With 4 minutes left in the game, Cleveland seems to be headed on to their first round sweep, leading the Pistons 86-72. Well, that's all for YSA Ksports. For all the folks here at the studio, I'm Jesse Mayfield-Sheehan. We'll see you next week.